All right, a few announcements. Um, Next week there will be no live Zoom class. Um, you will have an assignment out. I'm assuming I'll put it out this weekend, but no live Zoom class time. Wednesday next week will be just like every other Wednesday, where I have office hours. If you have questions, email me. We can set up a meeting and get your questions answered. All right. After that, um, we will have um, one more week in trimester two. So if you haven't taken your test yet, you want to make sure to get that done. If you have missing work from chapter 12, you want to make sure to get that done. And then stay caught up on these last couple assignments that we'll have for our new chapter. We will have a quiz the first week in December, the last week of the trimester, to kind of assess the first couple lessons that we cover in this new chapter. Okay. Questions? All right. Alex, can you mute your microphone, please? Thank you. All right. So, excuse me. We're going to talk about lines today and graphing lines, and then we'll talk about using some technology to figure out a line that fits some data next week. So today, looking specifically at slope intercept form, y equals mx plus b. All right. So the slope of a line is defined as the rate of change between any 2 points on a line. Slope measures the steepness of the line. So a couple of ways that we can define slope. One, we can just describe it, and it can be described as the change in y over the change in x. Most people describe this as rise over run. If we're given 2 points and we just use kind of a general x1, y1, and x2, y2, we can calculate the slope with the formula y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. If we have a table of values and we have values 2, 3, and 4, 6, we can use that same formula and take 4 minus 2 and 6 minus 3, and then our slope is 3 over 2. The final way that we could find the slope of a line is if we had a graph and basically count. Now, I don't like the way that it's drawn here because I like to do rise over run. So I would do the 3 first. We go up 3, and then we go over 2 to get our slope of 3/2. It's just a personal preference of mine. All right. All right. So here's an example. Find the slope of a line passing through the given points. And we have the points -3, 2 and -6, 1. So remember, when we graph, the first coordinate is our x. It tells us from the origin whether we move left or right. The second is the y value. It tells us to go up or down. So -3, 2 says go left 3, and from there go up 2. -6, 1, start at the origin, go left 6, and go up 1. So our slope, if we use the formula, we take our y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. In this case, 1 minus 2, and then -6 minus -3. Again, if you're going to find the slope using the points. I really don't like subtracting -3. I would change that. Subtracting a negative is the same as adding a positive. So then what I have is 1 minus 2. What is 1 minus 2?
-1.
All right, -1 is correct. Excellent. And then in my denominator, I have -6 plus 3.
-3.
Grace, you kind of cut off, but I think what you said was -3, and that would be correct. When we divide, so a fraction, remember, is just another way of writing division. So if I have a negative number divided by a negative number, what is the sign of my answer? Is it positive or negative?
Is it negative?
It is not. If the signs are the same when we multiply or divide, our answer is positive. So this -1 over -3 is exactly the same as 1/3. And we can kind of see that if we look at the graph to go, and I'm going to actually draw a line in here. So if I look at this line, I go up 1 and to the right 3. So definitely a positive line, and the slope would be 1 over 3. All right, how about this one? Now we have a line through the points 8, 2 and 8, -5. So again, the 8 tells me to move to the right 8. 2 tells me from that point, move up 2. For the other point, I move from the origin 8 to the right and down 5. And my line goes through those 2 points. For my slope, -5 minus 2 over 8 minus 8. What is -5 minus 2?
-7.
-7 is correct. And then I had someone in the chat, just as you said it, came up with the same answer, which is great. Love it when answers are the same. What about 8 minus 8? Yep, exactly. That's 0. And when we have 0 in our denominator, what do we call that? We have a special name. Yes, exactly, Emily. Exactly. This is undefined. So we can't divide by 0. So if we have 0 in the denominator, we call it undefined. And for a slope, it's just called an undefined slope. give you one to try on your own. Find the slope of the line that passes through the point -3, 1 and -1, 1. And I'll give you about a minute to do that. All right, what do we get? So our slope, we get 1 minus 1 over -1, -1 minus -3. Again, I'm going to change the minus a negative into plus a positive. Sorry about that. So 1 minus 1 is 0. -1 plus 3 is 2. If I take 0 and divide it in half or divide by 2, my answer is just 0. Okay. I'll show you the graph in just a second. Okay. So if we graph -3, 1, and -1, 1, there's our line. So there, it doesn't go up or down. It has a 0 slope. All right. So there are 4 different types of slope we could have. The slope of a line indicates whether the line rises, falls, is horizontal, or vertical. Label each graph with one of the descriptions in the boxes below. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change this first one. And I'm just going to call it zero slope because everything else is something and then slope. So slope of 0 doesn't really fit that pattern. All right, so this first line, one on the far left, is that zero slope, negative slope, undefined slope, or positive slope?
Positive.
It is positive. Excellent. All right, what about the second one?
Negative.
Negative slope. Maybe it's easier if I write it underneath. Like that. All right. Third one.
Zero slope.
Zero slope. All right, and the last one.
Undefined.
Undefined. So what I want you to do is take just a moment or two and write how you would find the slope from 2 points and how would you find the slope of a line from the graph. And I'll give you a couple of minutes to do that. And I will mute myself while you work. All right. Let's move on. One of the most recognized equations for a line is called slope-intercept form. I know a lot of students, when you ask them, well, what's the equation of a line, they'll give this form as their definition. And that formula is y equals mx plus b. Called slope-intercept form because m is the slope and b is the y-intercept. And if we're given an equation of a line in this form, graphing is relatively easy. In this case, we would start out by graphing the y-intercept. Which in our formula is the letter B. And we graph that on the y-axis. From that point, we use the slope to plot more points. And then we can connect those points with a straight line. I usually like to get 3 or 4 points. And then if they don't connect with an exactly straight line, I know that I messed up somewhere. All right, ready to go? Here we go. Graph the equation, state the slope and the y-intercept. So our first example, y equals 2/5 x minus 1. In our steps to graphing equations in slope-intercept form, it says start by graphing the y-intercept. What is the y-intercept in this case? In this case, our y-intercept is -1. Technically, it's the point 0, -1, but we graph -1 on the y-axis. What is the slope?
2/5.
2/5. Excellent. So from my y-intercept, I always think of slope rise over run. So I go up 2, right 5. And I can go up 2 and right 5 again. So if I graph that, that's what my line looks like. Then we're asked to tell what the slope and the y-intercept are. So we said our slope was 2/5. And our y-intercept and again, I like to write it as an ordered pair, 0, -1. All right. What about letter B? What is the y-intercept?
7.
7. So I go up 7 from the origin. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. What is the slope?
Wouldn't that be 1/1? But
Very
it'd be negative.
-1/1. Correct. Correct. Good. So the slope, we think of this negative as representing -1. And if our slope isn't a fraction, we just say it's whatever that value is over 1. So our slope is going to be -1/1. The way that I graph that is I let the negative go with the rise. So instead of going up 1, in this case, I'll go down 1, and then I always go to the right. So down 1, right 1, as many times as I want. And again, if I write my slope, and you could definitely write it as -1/1. You don't have to leave it as just -1. It's up to you. They both mean the same thing. My y-intercept, zero, 7. All right, let's try this one. Graph the line y equals 3x. What is the y-intercept?
Zero.
0, exactly. So this is like y equals 3x plus 0. So it crosses right at the origin. All right, what is the slope?
Three over one.
3 over 1. So I'm going to go up 3, right 1, up 3, right 1, up 3, right 1. And then I can draw my line. Slope is 3. Y-intercept is 0, 0. All right, so vertical lines and horizontal lines are pretty special, and they have special equations for them. In a vertical line, all of the x coordinates are exactly the same. So the general form we use is x equals c, where c just represents the x coordinate for every point on that line. Our example here would be x equals 4. For a horizontal line, all of the y values, all of the y coordinates are the same. So again, our general form, y equals some value c. And for the example here, y would equal -2. A vertical line, remember we said earlier, undefined slope. A horizontal line has 0 slope. All right, so for each equation, tell whether the line is horizontal or vertical. Graph the line and state its slope. So y equals 7. Is that horizontal or vertical?
Horizontal.
Horizontal. I'm going to write that here. Try this again. All right. So then we want to graph that horizontal line. So this is a line where every point has a y coordinate of 7. So there's my graph. What is the slope?
Zero over 7.
Just 0 is fine, because 0 over anything other than 0 is going to give me 0 as an answer. The 7 that y is equal to actually tells us the y-intercept. It does not, it's not affecting the slope. Okay, but 0 is terrific. All right, letter B, horizontal or vertical?
Vertical.
Vertical. So we want to graph all the points that have -4 as an x coordinate. That would be all of these points and many more. So our graph would look like that. And what is the slope?
Undefined.
Undefined. Perfect. Graph y equals 0 and state its slope. Is it horizontal or vertical?
Horizontal.
It is horizontal. What is its slope?
Zero.
0. Good. So in this case, it's all of the points with a y coordinate of 0 and it would be that line which we call the x-axis, which is kind of unusual. Y equals 0 is the line that forms the x-axis. Kind of seems backward a little bit. Any questions?